These are the AirPods Pro 3, and they are truly one of the best Bluetooth headphones that you can buy, especially if you're an Apple user. I've been wearing these headphones every day since they released. They replaced my AirPods Pro 2s, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys whether these headphones are actually worth the retail price. And not only worth it in general, but also if you have the AirPods Pro 2. In a lot of ways, the AirPods Pro 3s are an incremental improvement. They look very similar to the AirPods Pro 2s, albeit the case is a bit larger, and they've actually changed the shape of the AirPods. The battery life is similar, somewhat worse than on the AirPods Pro 2s, and the sound quality, at least in my opinion, is almost identical. Pricing-wise, the Apple AirPods Pro 3s come in at a retail price of $249. The 2s are now on sale at certain retailers like Amazon for $199. Not a huge price difference, it's a $50 difference. You can buy these on eBay, at least the ones with the Lightning connector, for like $50. I don't know if that's a move, because do you really want a pair of earphones that have been in someone else's ears? Who knows? But hey, if you're down with that, yeah, they're mad cheap on eBay. But the way that the AirPods Pro 3s really change things up is the noise canceling and the way that they fit in your ear. So let's just start off with that, the fit. The shape of the AirPods Pro 2s is different than the AirPods Pro 3s. And it's not only the angle at which the bud goes into your ear, but it's also the length of the part that goes into your ear. And that change becomes very evident when you pull off the ear tips. The AirPods Pro 2s, when you pull off that ear tip, are kind of flat in the front, whereas the AirPods Pro 3s have this sort of protruding black speaker. And what this new shape does is sit a little bit deeper in your ear, not only because it's got a longer sort of protrusion coming off of it, but also because the angle is a bit better at kind of getting inside your ear canal. Not only that, the ear tips themselves have changed. On the new AirPods Pro 3s, you've got a little bit of foam inside the ear tip, which actually helps kind of push the silicone up against your ear canal and really block out any sound without any active noise canceling. Even just putting them in your ear without them being turned on really does a good job of blocking out a lot of sound, more than you would expect. Now, I will say, after being so used to the AirPods Pro 2s, the AirPods Pro 3s felt a little bit more, I don't want to say invasive, because it didn't feel bad, but it definitely felt like they were going in deeper than the last version, if you know what I mean. It was a bit surprising, and because at the time I was so used to the AirPod Pro 2s, it felt jarring. Not only do the AirPods Pro 3s sit deeper in my ear, but they also feel more secure. When I shake my head, they don't feel like they're gonna fall out, which is funny because I didn't feel that way about the AirPods Pro 2s, but now that I put them in my ear, I mean, they're not falling out, but they don't feel like they're like really locked in. Really quick, I want to give a huge thank you to Core for supporting the channel and partnering up with me to give away an Apple gift card to one of you guys. A gift card that you can use towards the new AirPods Pro 3s, or maybe an iPhone or something like that. Essentially, Core is for superfans, people who really love their favorite creators and want to connect with them. Core is a free platform that you can get access to by redeeming one of your favorite creators' badges. I've got a couple different pages. I've got this one for Tech Fowler, I've got one for Seth Fowler, my main channel, and one for my podcast, the Shoes Off Podcast. Each one of these Core pages have a community section, and of course, the more badges that you get from your favorite creator puts you higher on their leaderboard, making you the superfan, but also giving you access to things like giveaways and potentially events and things like that. So if you want to check out Core for yourself and connect with me and my community, make sure to grab the badge in the top of the description below. That is actually the first badge. There's 3 different badges for this giveaway. You need to get all 3 of them. So connect with me on Core, get a chance to win an Apple gift card and pick up some Apple stuff that you like, and huge thank you to Core for supporting the channel. Now, in addition to the new shape, there are some other physical changes on the AirPods Pro 3s versus the AirPods Pro 2s. I'm gonna call these the 3s and the 2s because I can't keep saying AirPods Pros because it's a lot, it's a mouthful. Not only did they change the angle at which the ear tips go into your ears and the materials used in the ear tips, but they also now give you 5 different ear tip sizes. So there's a lot of customizability there, so you can really find an ear tip that works perfectly for you. The mesh area on the top of the 3s is bigger. On the back, it's actually about the same size, but it's placed a little bit higher. And then you'll notice on the bottom part of the 3s, you've actually got this other black sensor, which you don't have on the 2s. That's actually a heart rate sensor. The 3s actually allow you to track your heart rate without an Apple Watch. So if you're wearing these while you're exercising, you don't have to throw on an Apple Watch. You can still get your heart rate data on your health app. Now, what I find even cooler is that if you're wearing your Apple Watch and the Pro 3s at the same time, they actually find out what the most accurate heart rate actually is based on whatever data is being shared between the 2 devices through your phone, and it gives you that data, which means it's even more accurate than just using one or the other. But now let's talk about the sound quality, because I would say for most people, that's like the most important feature. It's not the most important feature for everybody, but for most people. And like I mentioned, for me, the difference was imperceptible. I didn't notice any kind of difference whatsoever. I mean, there were certain songs that I thought maybe sounded better in one than the other, but then I'd listen to a different song and I'd feel differently. It was never to a point where I was like, okay, one sounds way better than the other, or one even sounds better than the other. I didn't really notice a difference. Maybe I'm not enough of an audiophile to notice a difference. I mean, I guess, you know, if I had to pick one, I would probably go with the 3s over the 2s, but again, it was such a minor difference, I barely noticed it. I don't know, I actually make music with instruments and singing and all sort of good stuff. I record music, so I know what goes into a good sound, but they both sound great. I wouldn't buy one or the other because of sound quality, because the difference is negligible. That being said, if you've never tried the AirPods Pro, they are an excellent Bluetooth headphone. They sound really clear, really crisp, they've got really decent bass and really decent highs. across the board, I'd say they're some of the best Bluetooth headphones that you can get. Obviously, if you're going for more of a audiophile style, you're probably not going to be buying AirPods unless you're using them just specifically for traveling. Every audiophile that I've talked to has this very specific pair of headphones that they listen to for a very specific reason, and it usually differs from person to person. Not many of them say that they're listening to AirPods, but I'd say for the mass population out there, the AirPods Pro 3s sound incredible. But now let's talk about ANC, or active noise canceling. That's a feature that Apple is touting most with the AirPods Pro 3s, and they say that it's up to 2 times better than on the AirPods Pro 2s. And generally, they're not totally wrong. They actually say it's the best ANC that you can get in any headphone. I haven't tried every headphone, so I don't know. But I will say that it's really, really good, and it's one of the best. At least one of the best that I've tried. This is probably the feature that would justify getting the AirPods Pro 3s over the 2s the most. Now, to be honest, the 2s still have really great noise canceling, but the 3s sound that much better. Now, when it comes to like low airline hums or car sounds or something like that, generally, they're pretty similar, but where the difference really comes in is with talking and videos in the background and conversations behind you at a coffee shop. Every time I threw these in, I was consistently impressed by how much better the noise canceling was on these for those particular situations than with the 2s. Now, again, 2s are fine, but when you're comparing them side by side, you do notice that the 3s do a better job of canceling out noise around you, specifically people talking. I can't quantify it, I don't know, but it's noticeably better. And that is one of the main things, if not, well, realistically, it's one of the only things that is noticeably better on the 3s than on the 2s, but I feel like I gotta keep reiterating this. The 2s are still excellent headphones. They're still great in almost every aspect. So the 3s are just an iterative improvement over the 2s, specifically in areas like noise canceling. So yes, the active noise canceling is incredible, but so is the transparency mode. And I would say that the transparency mode on these headphones is even better than it was on the 2s. It sounds more natural. The microphones on these headphones do a better job of picking up your voice, and I'm sure there's some sort of like processing going on your phone or in the headphones or something that does a better job of sort of weeding through what sounds are you or what sounds are the conversation that you're having with a specific person and what sounds need to be kind of blocked out in the background. And transparency mode doesn't sound as robotic as it used to. It sounds really natural. Your own voice sounds like your own voice more than it ever has with any of the previous Apple AirPods when it comes to transparency mode. And I really love having, I guess it's the automatic transparency mode on, where when I decide to have a conversation with my wife when I'm maybe editing at my table or my daughter walks up to me and I want to say something to her, it brings down the volume of your music or pauses your video or whatever the case may be so you can have that conversation. And it kind of gives you a couple seconds after what you've said or what they've said to make sure that no one else is talking and the conversation is ended before it restarts whatever it is that you're listening to, which is a really nice feature, and I really, really appreciated that because a lot of times I'll say something to someone and maybe they won't respond right away, but because it waits that couple extra seconds, you get that little bit of buffer so that when the person responds, boom, you can hear them and it's great. Now, one new feature on the AirPods Pro 3s is live translation, and while I haven't actually had a conversation with someone in a different language, I have used it with people who maybe can speak like a sentence in Spanish, or I've watched videos or listened to music in different languages, and it does a pretty decent job. Now, it's not seamless, it's still in beta mode, it's still a little bit slower than I'd like it to be, but it's pretty impressive, and it generally, from what I can tell, gets the translation correct. Now, you do have to download the translation app on your phone, and you have to download certain languages to your phone, and there's only like 4 or 5 languages right now that are actually compatible with this app, like Spanish, French, English, and there's a couple more you guys can see in the B-roll because I screen recorded using the app. But I will say it's impressive, and I love the fact that you can have a conversation from Spanish to English or English to Spanish and have an actual conversation with someone if you maybe are traveling somewhere that's a Spanish-speaking country. Now, it is slower than I would like, and sometimes it kind of breaks up the sentences in odd ways, but for a beta, it's really decent. I just dropped a review on the Meta Ray-Ban displays, and they're a pair of glasses or smart glasses that feature not only captions, which you can see on the screen in front of you, but also live translation. It's pretty similar, and again, you have to download the languages onto your phone. No live translation app that uses any sort of accessory that I've noticed so far is perfect, and I think that will get better as we go on, but it's still pretty good. I think Google's is the best, personally, and Meta's and Apple's could use some work, but they're getting there. As you probably guessed, you've got Apple Intelligence on your AirPods, which does what Apple Intelligence does. It's not my favorite AI assistant, but gets the job done. Phone calls sound really good. The microphone sounds better on these than it does on the AirPods Pro 2s. Again, not a huge difference, but it is noticeable, especially when you're the person on the other end of the phone. And another sort of nice to have feature is that the AirPods Pro 3s are now IP57 water and dust resistant, which is better than the old ones, but still, it's not something you want to drop in like a puddle or bring to the ocean or something like that. But now we get to a very interesting sort of downside between the 3s and the 2s, and I guess the one sort of downgrade between the 3s to the 2s, or from the 2s to the 3s, and that is the battery life. Now, I'm not talking about the battery life in the actual AirPods themselves. In fact, the battery life in the 3s is better than the 2s. In the actual pods, on the 3s, you get 8 hours of active noise canceling, or ANC. I found that number to be pretty accurate. Now, I actually got a little bit longer than 8 hours, but that's because I wasn't like constantly listening to music or constantly watching something. I would pause it here and there, take them out for a second here and there, like they weren't constantly in my ears with noise canceling on the whole time. Now, the 2s are rated for 6 hours, which I find to be also pretty accurate, at least at the time that these were new. I will say now, with battery degradation, which is definitely a thing with these headphones, it's gotten worse. I didn't test exactly how long it was, but it's definitely less than 8 hours. Now these are the older AirPod Pro 2s. The ones that I have are the ones with the lightning connector, so they're like the first generation AirPods Pro 2s, so they will have a worse battery life than the newer AirPods Pro 2s, especially if you got a new set, because batteries degrade over time and these tiny little batteries in these headphones are not going to last that long. So in the pods themselves, yes, the battery life is better, but where the battery life is worse is actually in the case. Now interestingly enough, like I mentioned, the case on the 3s is bigger than the case on the 2s, only slightly, but it is bigger. But the battery life is worse on the 3's case than it is on the 2's case. With the 2's case, you would get 30 hours of active noise canceling battery life. On the 3's case, you get 24 hours of active noise canceling battery life. So it's like 6 hours less, which is kind of wild, especially when the case is bigger. Now they actually have the same W2 chip. It's not a new chip there, so it's not the chip that's bigger. It really could be that the new shape of these AirPods make it harder to fit a battery in this case. I'm not totally sure, but either way, the battery life is worse long term versus the 2's. Now again, the actual battery life of the pod itself is better on the 3's, but if you're going on a long flight, maybe from like Philadelphia to Manila, which is like generally like a 26-hour travel, maybe sometimes 30-hour travel day, having that little extra bit of battery life would be nice on the 2's, even though you have to charge them up with the case more often because maybe you're not near an outlet or something like that. So are the Apple AirPods Pro 3s worth it? In my opinion, if you do not have a pair of AirPods, or if you have a non-Pro AirPod or even the first generation AirPods Pros, then yes, they would be a huge upgrade over any of the headphones that you've used in the past, and they're honestly excellent all-around headphones. Now, are these worth the upgrade over the 2's? Well, it depends. Do you want live translation? Do you want better battery life in the pods themselves, but not in the case? And do you want better noise canceling? Then yes, the 3's are worth it. However, if you have a newer pair of AirPods Pro 2's, or even if the battery life is fine for you, then I don't think it's worth the upgrade. Yes, the noise cancellation is better, but it's still good on the 2's, and in my opinion, the sound quality is very, very similar, if not the same. Now, I should note that while AirPods generally work on Android phones, they are specifically made for the Apple ecosystem, and they work way better on iPhones, and they can do more on iPhones. While yes, they still sound good on Android phones, iPhone is the way to go, and I think if you have an Android phone, AirPods might not be the right option for you. While I don't think you'll be mad that you got them, I do think that there are other headphones out there that do more with your Android phones, and maybe even sound a little bit better with your Android phones because they can sync with those phones better. But hey, with all that being said, let me know your experience with the Apple AirPods Pro 3s, if you have them, or if you're planning to get them, what you're excited about most with these new headphones. Again, let me know in that comment section down below. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.